On today's episode, we break down and dissect the favorite, the most interesting, and the most underrated picks from Keith's latest mock draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keenan Sanchez. He's a director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Keith dropped the mock draft over at Bleacher Report. We're going to break it all down and talk about our favorite picks, most interesting, and then those sleeper picks that no one really thinks about. But before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Guys, it's mock draft, man. It's football season is here. And Keith, I say my favorite pick of this mock. I'm gonna go pair with Cleveland Browns. I like what you did for Cleveland. Number 2, they get LaNorris Sellers, quarterback out of South Carolina. And at number 11, they get Jordyn Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State. So you get your highly toolsy quarterback out of South Carolina. Then you get the kind of 3-level receiver, route runner, like I said, dominant performance from him in week 1 in Jordyn Tyson. I think this is a way to push forward if you're Cleveland, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you get that guy, that ball of clay that is LaNorris Sellers. Like you're gonna have to, deal with some of the ups and downs because he's still learning the game, learning the position, playing it at the playing quarterback the way that the NFL will look for him to play, quick decisions, things of that nature. But just as the game slows down for him, this is a guy that, as we saw last year, he can do what needs to be done at the quarterback position from the pocket and with his legs, because you can start designing different things like that, helping the run game, especially having what Quinshon Judkins, who is expected to be signing, if he hasn't already signed his rookie contract. That's expected to happen before Sunday games kick off. And then you have with Dillon Sampson, who they drafted out of Tennessee. So having a pairing of those two guys, those two running backs in the backfield with LaNorris Sellers, the zone read stuff, RPO game, things like that. But I think Jordyn Tyson walks into this offense, and he may not be wide receiver 1 right at the gate because Jerry Jeudy is a proven guy right now, but he comes in and be the complement that Jerry Jeudy needs because he's got more ball skills, more contested catch ability, body control, strength, and things of that nature. Like he pairs well with Jerry where he could play the X. Both of them can move around, but I think that would be, in terms of having guys that can win with route running, timeliness, things like that, that would be really good for a young quarterback like the LaNorris Sellers, because I like what you did for Cleveland right there, and Cleveland fans should love that, honestly.
Yeah, no, that's what I went with, DP. And I just thought about Cleveland, right? Just how do you officially, because I get it's not in the headlines anymore, but how do you officially turn the page from Deshaun Watson and get everybody excited about the future?
He's
right?
trying to ramp up the play too.
Yeah, and I think they have to make a decision. Like, listen, he ramping up the play. Do we get rid of him, right? And then you still have the Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders thing. Like I said, and I put that in my excerpt over the Draft Network. I was just like, hey, like they need to send a sign to the fans that we're moving on and we're confident in what we're doing. Because right now, the confidence in I think the fan base is confidence in Shedeur. They want to see Shedeur succeed, but I don't think that the front office is sending that message that we're confident in Shedeur or Dillon Gabriel, right?
Right.
Because you refuse to kind of like say, here are the keys to the franchise. Here you go, take over it, do what you're going to do. We're excited
You're
about
our guy. They're not telling either one of those quarterbacks that right now.
They haven't told either one of those quarterbacks. So I said, you know what? They need to send a message. DP,
real quick, do you think Kevin Stefanski is the head coach if this happens, where you got Cleveland at 2, you got 2 and maybe 11? Do you think Stefanski's still the coach? Or do you go ahead, because if Stefanski's not the coach, it definitely makes sense to go ahead and draft whoever the new coach and GM situation is to get your quarterback.
DP, this is the weirdest situation if you look at Stefanski's resume, right? Because he's made the playoff a couple times when he wasn't supposed to make it.
Right.
He's coached some pretty bad teams, right? Which you can't say is all his fault. Right. So where do you land with this situation? And I think with Stefanski, The answer is he probably won't be the head coach. And this is a guy, I think he's a 2-time coach of the year.
Yeah,
And
coach of the year.
yeah, so it's weird, right? Like his resume is impressive and unimpressive all at the same time, wrapped in a box. I think that the Cleveland Browns lose enough games this year that the fan base, they want a new head coach. They're going to want a fresh face. I think they're probably going to want to start over in all three facets. I like what they have because they have some young players when you talk about draft. Graham, Carson Schlesinger, you talked about Quinshon Judkins, and a couple other players they brought in this past year's draft. I think that they put themselves in a good spot to really turn the page because there was a few years what they didn't have first round picks at all, right? Because of the Deshaun Watson trade. So I think this is the perfect time for them to kind of pivot and move forward. What that does for the rest of the quarterback room, I have no idea. And I don't think the Cleveland Browns have any idea, which has been part of the problem that we've had for this from the very beginning. I'm gonna look at this DP, and it was two things. I like the Las Vegas Raiders going after Peter Woods, right? Obviously, the situation with Christian Watkins that just makes too much sense, right? To get another defensive lineman, and argue a guy that could be the best in the class. And then I want to highlight this player, Sonny Styles with the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, yeah, I like that. I
think he makes a lot of sense there just because they need linebacker help. And they keep, like, you know how we always say with the Minnesota Vikings, they always draft corners and still need more corners. For the Miami Dolphins, it seems like they always draft edge rushers and need more edge rushers. I think that Sonny Styles has something to unlock as an edge rusher. As a blitzer, as a guy that can rush the passer, especially at that size. He kind of reminded me of, why am I blanking on this young man name? The linebacker that came out of Alabama last year.
Jihad Campbell.
Jihad Campbell, where you can see that there's some upside because of their length, and they probably both around 230 pounds. But also, I actually think Sonny might be a better athlete, like just movement skills wise. I like Sonny a lot, DP. I like him as a defender a lot, just playing defense on the second level and then walking him down and doing different things with him like that. So the Sonny Styles pick was a pick that I liked a lot too.
Yeah, Sonny Styles is. I think this is a big year for him. I don't think a lot of people realize how talented he is. Former, I think, safety converted down to linebacker with like 6'4". I think they have him listed like 240. Ridiculous athlete. He was on the Bruce Feldman's freak list. Then they said the only person on the team that was faster than him was Jeremiah Smith. So, like that tells you anything. Yeah, he's got speed. You know what I mean? So it's like now for him to continue to round out his game as a pure linebacker, but then also, like you said, if you can unlock some of that pass rush ability, like you got yourself an absolute weapon of a defensive prospect, like the queen on the chessboard. You can move him wherever you want to move him to and let him play any position in terms of, hey, we rush you off the edge. I mean, Micah Parsons is not a standard of that type of role where it's like, oh, he play linebacker. He can play on first and second downs and then rush the passer. I don't think he's going to be Micah Parsons, so I don't want to ever put him out there. But like just the way that I think the linebackers now, similar to the linebackers, are going through a phase where we're starting to see more hybrids in terms of you're a linebacker, but that can also give us some juice as a pass rusher, similar to how we look at it with safeties now. There's no longer the days of Ed Reed and Earl Thomas. Now you kind of need to be that hybrid safety nickel defender, or even safety big dime backer, you know what I mean, to where you still give us that 3-down value without having to play the top of the defense.
Yep, I agree with DP. Let's do this, man. Let's keep this thing going and flowing. And we're up next. I'm sorry. Up next, we're talking most interesting picks, right? The picks that made us say, that's interesting. We're going to talk about that coming up next.
It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the South Carolina Gamecocks, LaNorris Sellers, their star quarterback, delivered in a big way. His usage of his legs when it was third downs late in that game against Vatech, he powered through would-be sacks and tackles and was able to convert and give them new sets of downs. When the pressure was on, LaNorris Sellers came through. No hesitation, no delay. And just like LaNorris Sellers delivered for the South Carolina Gamecocks, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/8. Most interesting picks from Keith Sanchez's mock draft over at the Draft Network. Go check it out, thedraftnetwork.com. Keith, I go to number 21. It's not interesting in the bad way. This makes me excited to see Keenan Sadiq to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You putting this, and I'm telling you guys, this is a guy we both like on this pod. I would not be surprised if he ends up being the first tight end off the board. Mm-hmm. This dude blocks like he's strong, but he's a ridiculous athlete at the tight end position as well. And it's like, yeah, they play with I think Montana State or something like that. But as this season goes on, Oregon's going to get this young man the ball a lot. I expect with Dante Moore and like some of the unknown pieces at the wide receiver position, Keenan Sadiq should absolutely run that, like be one of the guys that runs that passing offense. And putting him, whether they keep Cade Otton or if Cade Otton's a trade candidate or his contract is, I don't really care. Putting Keenan Sadiq in this offense with Baker Mayfield, Emeka Egbuka, Jalen McMillan, you got Chris Godwin, you signed the extension to. They're probably going to re-up Mike Evans because they don't want to, just let him retire a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. That would be one of those like I don't want a Julio Jones Tennessee Titans year from Mike Evans somewhere else. I'd rather him keep him at home, man. Let him finish out that I think he should be in the Hall of Fame career right where he started at. But Keenan Sadiq in this offense, man, with Baker Mayfield, I forgot Bucky Irvin in the backfield. Like, yeah, like those NFC South teams. You would probably hate this pick a lot. Like if you're a Panthers, if you are a Falcons fan, like you're gonna hate this pick because that's just another weapon for Baker Mayfield to cook with. I think this would be a home run hit, and it could have gone in my favorite picks. For some reason I think I missed it when I was looking over it, but then scrolling back through it, yeah, that's a very interesting pick in the best of ways.
Yep, no, 100% DP. I'm gonna go with interesting. Man, it's tough because I'm kind of calling my own picks interesting, right? But I'm gonna go with the Washington Commanders and them drafting Antonio Williams. And I think this is a selection that can make a lot of sense because Antonio, people gonna look at it, but he's 5'10", 5'11". He's a guy that plays bigger than his frame. And because I kind of put this in the excerpt too, right? That I talked about that right now Jayden has veteran wide receivers, right? In both Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel. He needs that guy that's going to be with him for that next 8 to 10 years, right? Like his go-to target, his go-to guy. I think Antonio Williams can be that. He's an easy target guy because he can line up in the slot. He can line up in the backfield. And unfortunately, right, week one, and this is a big question mark, how much of the game plan against LSU was Antonio Williams involved in, right? Like, did they plan on getting the football to him? Like, they lost him the second or the third play of the game. Like, it was definitely the first drive. Yeah, hamstring. So yeah, that's a big loss for the Clemson offense, the offense that was trying to stabilize itself and gain momentum. I look at Antonio Williams, DP, and I see the upside. I'm like, man, I'm all in on this young man. I think he's a first round caliber draft pick, even though the size isn't there. But you pair him up with Jayden Daniels, I think he's able to do the route running stuff, and he's a younger version of able to do the stuff that people want Deebo Samuel to do, as far as taking the end arounds and jet sweeps, orbit motions, bubbles. Touches. Yeah, manufactured touches. I think he can do both. So this is an easy target for me for Jayden Daniels and a guy that he could be like, okay, cool, this guy will be here with me the next 8 years of my career.
And to add on to that, why I like this fit too, because Jayden Daniels, remember coming into the draft last year, I'd say he was the most accurate quarterback in that class to me. Mm-hmm. More accurate than Caleb, Drake, Bo Nix, Penix. Like the only guy that rivaled him was Michael Penix. But it's the slot fade. Like we watched him connect on those time and time again at LSU with them elite neighbors, right? Putting Antonio Williams in the slot, you know what I mean, probably beside or opposite formation of a Terry McLaurin and be able to get that one-on-one and run that slot fade because Antonio Williams has the speed and quickness to get vertical. But then you have a quarterback that can basically throw it and put it over the shoulder and drop a dime in the bucket it feels like LSU has done a pretty good job of finding these guys that can do that. You know what I mean? From JD to JD5 to Joe Burrow, now Garrett Nussmeier, that slot fade or that fade ball is money.
Huge.
You know what I mean? It's money for that offense and for the program. And man, JD is one of the best in the game with it in terms of accuracy and ball placement down the, especially vertically, where it's a stretching the field, throwing deep balls is the most like high risk, low reward. Like the completion percentage is not great on deep throws for most quarterbacks. Like it's one of the those throws where it's just like, yeah, it's very likely that you don't complete this pass. But that accuracy that JD5 has, and then putting them with a guy like Antonio Williams, you already paid Terry McLaurin too, so you got him happy. He's back at home. You don't got to deal with that situation. That could be a nice 1-2 punch. And then, like you said, you still have. I think Debo's on like a 1-year deal. So whether or not the Debo plays well and you re-up him and bring him back, I mean, hey, I'm all for it. Keith, I'm gonna tell you what. Oh yeah, you about to say something?
No, go ahead.
Oh. A pick that I didn't see it at first. I just looked back over it. 19, Matayo Uiagalelei going to Denver. A Denver Broncos defense that's already legit. Yeah, man. Like, if I'm Mahomes, I'm like, man, come on, bro. Like, what are we doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Mahomes, Herbert, Geno Smith. Like, if I'm in any of those three quarterbacks, I hear this name come off the board, like the Denver Broncos, Matayo Uiagalelei, I'm gonna be pissed off because I'm just like, this defense is already good. You got the reigning defensive player of the year. Nick Bonitto's a legit one of the best pass rushers in the league now. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're getting, I think Shedeur Sanders back. They have a lot of different guys in their front seven. Zach Allen, all those guys in that defensive line. Got a great, defense coordinator in Vance Joseph calling the plays. And then you have an offense that's playing good ball coming off of last year at least. We'll see how it looks this year and everything with Sean Payton and Bo Nix part 2. But yeah, you get Matayo, and Matayo gives you the best of both worlds too, because kid, I feel like Matayo could go off the board a lot higher. Matayo's super athletic for his size, quick, he bends, and he has power. So it's like, yeah, pairing him with Nick Bonitto long term. Man, if I'm on any of those other AFC West quarterbacks, I'm legit pissed off. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to have to deal with this. I can slide from Nick Bonitto. You know what I mean? We can chip, and I can slide, and I can move. But if you slide from Nick Bonitto, you slide right to Matayo Uiagalelei. And man, that at some point you might be sliding away from Matayo Uiagalelei into Nick Bonitto. So it's just like, yeah, that's a great way to honestly help Bo Nix. Just keep building this defense up to where you have a defense that allows 17 points a game, and you just tell them, Bo Nix, go get us 22. He says 23.
Yeah, no, get it. That's all. And you put Bo Nix in a winning situation, right? To where he just has to manage the game and then take the shots when the shots are there. But also the defense will be able to create so much havoc that they put the offense in advantageous situation. You're talking about shorter fields, right? And then you could use the old adage of always in the drive and the kick, right? Whether that's a field goal, extra point, or a punt, right? And you always end in the kick, and then there's less pressure on Bo Nix to feel like I have to go out there and score 30, 40 points in order for our team to win the game. And that's against anybody, right? Like, and when you have a great defense, your defense is competitive against most offenses, not just some of them. It's competitive against most to all offenses. So I'm right there with you. When I made that selection, I'm like, nah, this is a good spot for Matayo, also because he doesn't have to be the main guy. He doesn't have to be relied upon like pass rushers, you or Bucs, right? It's not a Trey Hendricks situation where you're the only guy carrying the entire defense. This Denver defense was good last year, and they got better. And they got mentality guys, the Dre Greenlaws, the Huafangas from San Francisco, right? Plus the Pat Surtains and the Nick Bonitto. So there's a lot to go with this defense. But DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. We already did favorite picks. We knocked out most interesting picks. Now we're about to knock out the most underrated picks from my mock draft over at the Draft Network. Let's talk about that coming up next.
Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every single detail and way. As an athlete focuses on every detail, Mazda does the same. From metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather, you can feel it the moment you get behind the wheel. The smooth handling, intuitive controls, and standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. Whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes even everyday drives feel a little more special. It's the small details that make the big plays, and just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use freely across the app. Again, let me repeat that. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 back in bonus bets that you can use freely across the app. From everything from player props to bet on, building same-game parlays, and even jumping into the live action as it unfolds. So my question to you is simply, are you ready to play? If you are, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. Again, are you ready to play? If so, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday. Shout out for being our everyday as those underrated sleeper picks from Keith's mock draft over at the Draft Network. Keith, it's a couple that I'm looking at here, but I'm gonna go to oh man, I almost lost it. Okay, number 30, Chris Bell, wide receiver out of Louisville. And most people hear this name is like, who is that? You know, this is a guy I like, and I want to see if him and Miller Moss can really find some magic and connection throughout this season, because this is a talented dude. The thing that's like underrated situation is because I look at it like, okay, because you said pairing Bell with Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir will give him one of the top receiving units in the league, you know, the next couple of years. Do you think, I want to ask you, do you think Keon Coleman and Chris Bell's skill sets are redundant or a little too similar? Or you feel comfortable with them being able to play alongside each other?
Yeah, I agree with you, DP. And that's almost why I didn't make the selection and make this pairing, because I was like, that's very similar to Keon Coleman. But the reason why I went with it, and I was like, you know what, I can go ahead and drop him here, was because the thing that they need, I think they potentially, like, that can be an easy find. And I'm talking about a vertical field stretcher, right? Somebody to take the top off. I think you just kind of want to find a speed guy. But given Josh Allen, two guys who are possession wide receivers, physical, run after the catch guy, both 50-50 ball guys, plus the addition of Khalil Shakir, who's also another shifty kind of, you know, lineup in different, I guess, areas and alignments. I think it can work. Now, and usually I don't like redundant skill sets, but I think because of what Keon Coleman and Chris Bell could bring as a pairing, I don't mind it at all. I think that their complementary piece can easily be found, but I agree with you. That was a tough situation.
Yeah, that was just one that one that stuck out, because I like Chris Bell. I don't think a lot of people know who Chris Bell is, but hopefully Miller Moss can kind of, you know, help, you know, bring some more light, shed some more light to that situation. Keith, I go number 28. I'm talking about underrated fit, Max Clare, tight end out of Ohio State, athlete from Purdue. Purdue continues to churn out NFL prospects. They just can't keep them.
Nope.
You know, gotta win more games to keep these guys and stuff like that. But Max Clare is athletic. He's smooth. This is a guy I think can have a big year as Julian saying gets comfortable in that starting quarterback role for Ohio State. And at the end of the day, shout out to Travis Kelce. You got engaged. You know what I mean? Happy for you. I think your NFL career is on that last leg. And I think they need to find that next tight end who they can call, not to have a Hall of Fame career, but you don't want to go from Hall of Famer to, man, this guy's actually just a 300-yard tight end every year. You need that guy that can at least be 6, 7, 800 yards and be work that you can count on. I think Max Clare has a skill set that can pair well with Pat Mahomes and the receiving weapons that they have.
Yeah, and with this tight end class, I go through my process, DP. I struggled. I struggled to find a tight end to put with Kansas City, is because I like a lot of tight ends here. Like we've talked about Oscar Delp already. Really like him. Lawson Lucky is another guy. You're talking about run after the catch ability. The tight end from Michigan, I'm blanking on his name. He's a big boy that's really good, like good mover, great blocker. He just hasn't been productive. So they're tight ends, the tight end from Texas, right? So there are a lot of tight ends that you can kind of slot into this role. Then you have Eli Stowers also, right, with Vanderbilt. So there's about 6 or 7 tight ends that I'll even make the statement of this. I think this tight end class is deeper than last year's tight end class. What we've seen 2 first rounders. So I'm not beyond finding 2 first rounders, and that's if Keenan Sadiq, a guy like that, doesn't fall in the draft, right? What if the Chiefs are able to get their hands on him? What if they don't, make it to the Super Bowl? Now they picking at pick 26 and they're able to get their hands on a guy like Keenan Sadiq. So I really like this tight end class. I think it's going to be one of the strengths of this class. It reminds me of, was that all the same class? Sam Laporta, our guy that plays for the Buffalo Bills out of Utah.
Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, Dalton Kincaid. And it was another tight end from Michigan that got drafted to the Dallas Cowboys. So
Schoonmaker.
Yeah. And then we had Luke Musgrave. We had the other tight end that Green Bay Packers
Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, I think that was all one class. If I'm
one
not
class, we still forgetting my man from he's with the Raiders right now. But he was from Notre Dame.
Oh, Michael Mayer.
Michael Mayer. Like that was from a pre-draft standpoint, that was a loaded tight end group. I think, what I mean? It just hasn't played out.
At something similar to that, DP, with this tight end class.
No, I agree with you. I agree with
you. A really good tight end class. One, I'm gonna talk about the Cowboys because we have to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, right? Them doubling down. And I talked about it, right? The Michael Parsons replacement. Go get Ruben Bain Jr., right? Get you a high intense guy, high motor guy that can be disruptive, can make plays. I don't think on this roster they have a go-to sack artist anymore. So I get it that Jerry Jones felt like they got better at the interior defensive line, which they did. They needed to get better, but they sacrificed a lot trading away Michael Parsons because they don't have that sack artist to make plays. In this draft, you go get Ruben Bain Jr., then you follow that up and go get a guy like Nicholas Singleton. And I think that, honestly, Nicholas Singleton has a very productive college career, but is he a player when he's able to be RB1 in offense, can be more productive with more carries, right? So I like the Dallas Cowboys and what they were able to walk away with.
Yeah, man, I think when I saw first of all, when I saw Nicholas Singleton, I saw that one first. I missed the Ruben Bain one. I was like, oh, you get this type of haul, like, does it immediately make you forget about Michael Parsons? No, but you definitely feel good about night one. If the Dallas Cowboys walk away with Ruben Bain and Nick Singleton, like, okay, we got our running back of the future and our new starting edge rusher, who we don't have to play at linebacker because our linebackers aren't good. He's going to play true edge, and we can possibly, and especially in this linebacker class, and we're going to get into that as the season goes on. This is a good group of linebackers that we have in college football right now. So you might be able to get you a new linebacker and leader of your second level in day 2 of next year's draft. Talking about second and third round, like, man, we got us a starter. The Browns feel that way with Carson Schwarzenegger. You know what I mean? We saw like 2. Cincinnati took like 2. In between like the second and fourth round back in April. So I think Dallas, you did a good job for Dallas. And then I'll close it up, Keith, because like I said, it's just a good mock overall. A lot of different landing spots. I got 15, man. Jacoby Lane to the Pittsburgh Steelers and getting the guy that we tabbed as a smoother George Pickens.
Mm-hmm.
A smoother but less chaotic George Pickens.
Yeah. So
it's like, you don't got to worry about him out there throwing punches and stuff. Like, he's going to run his routes, do what he needs to do. But pairing him with DK Metcalf, they're expecting big things from Roman Wilson this year. Now he's healthy. Pat Fryermuth, you got Darnell Washington. Got to figure out what's going to happen at quarterback for them. Like, is Aaron Rodgers, does he have a good year this year and say, I might got one more in me? And Mike Tomlin is able to convince him to come back, or is it Will Howard? Or do you draft a guy on day 2? Like, what happens at the quarterback position? But nonetheless, getting a Jacoby Lane to just round out that receiving room, I think that's a very underrated situation. Steelers fans might be pissed off, Keith, because they'll be like, hey, we got a top 15 pick and we get a quarterback. Like, what are we doing? But I think it's a nice consolation prize to be able to get that, because you should probably still get a quarterback round 2. You know what I mean? And if the different guys that we expect to declare.
Yep, I agree with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On tomorrow's show, guys, it is Friday, which means it's time for some make a statement, man. We got week 2 of college football. Which NFL draft prospects need to make a statement? So quarterbacks is coming off some not so great performances. Guys got to bounce back in week 2. We'll talk about all that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.